and creating your successful brand campaign. Our next speaker is a seasoned campaigner with over 20 years of research and experience. He's a Kiwi through and through, but has been staying here for 8 years. So ladies and gentlemen, please give your warm welcome for the country head of Kantar Millward Brown, Mr. Kelvin Gin.
Thanks, Esty. Good afternoon, or should that be good evening. I talked to the MMA team just a minute ago and says, why am I the last? And Rohit said, well, I'm always saving the best till last. So wake up and I'll try and entertain you for the last session today. Before I start, I think you know who I am. Name's up there. I do look after Kantar Millward Brown in Indonesia. We are the knowledge partners for the MMAs in the region, hence that's why I'm here. I'm just going to say something very bloody obvious first up. I mean, I think a lot of us talked about it. Indonesian consumers are getting more connected than before, and I think that's so what. Okay, but I think the next slide will just sort of talk to you about the magnitude by which things are happening and how things are moving very quickly. Now, if we look at some of the stats here, if we look at people that are online in Indonesia, about 2/3 of them are on digital. And when we talk about digital, you can sort of default to mobile. So when I say digital, online, it's like mobile. Because if you look at it, of that 61%, about just over 90% is actually all on mobile. And that sort of coincides with what Greg said this morning. So there's a big dynamic there, and it's changing very, very fast. I mean, as Asti was saying, I've been here 8 years. That's changed significantly over that time, not surprisingly. We also look at, how things evolve around the country as well. I think it's obvious that, penetration is high in the top 9 cities. It's pretty big in other urban cities. It's a little bit lower in the rural. But I think one thing you need to note is that when you get people online, when you get people on mobile, you've got them. They spend a hell of a lot of time online, almost 3 hours per day. So there's a huge amount of communication there that we can have. We've got a very connected audience. Now, with multimedia consumption, there are more opportunities for brands to connect with consumers. That's just a fact. If we look at Indonesia specifically, and this was a study that we did in Kantar Millward Brown, and if you look at Indonesian consumers, they're very open to mobile campaigns, more so than the rest of the world. And because of that fact, they give us a reason or allow us to get remembered a lot easier. They also allow us to communicate a message, a purpose, something about our brands. And fundamentally, that means it leads them into spending some money with us. Okay, so if you look on the right-hand side, if we look at through multimedia campaigns, how Indonesians feel, and you look at it compared to the global, so it reminds me more about the brand. 46% are saying yes. The global average is 34%. If you look on the far right, helps me understand the message better. 36% of Indonesians think that's true. Only 15% is the global average. Generally leaves a stronger impression, 30 versus 16. And finally, that purchase intent, more likely to buy the brand, it's double what it is globally. So that we've got a rationale and a reason for communicating to our consumers. Now, if we look at each of the touch points, it's a little bit different in terms of what's happening. As someone said before earlier today, TV isn't dead. TV still plays a major role in how we communicate. It still has an awareness game. It's still able to we can communicate associations or messages, and it still allows us to motivate people to buy. But online, mobile, it's changing that dynamic. And if you look at the study, this was done amongst 30,000 people over 4 or 5 years. As the years have gone by, the strength of online and mobile has only just grown more and more and more. So there's definitely an ability for mobile to get across those associations and motivations for purchase. So how do we make mobile work in a multimedia campaign? And that's the guts of what I want to talk to you about today. There's 3 key, I'd say, recipes or rules of thumbs in which we want to work with campaigns. The 3 bits are: start with a strong campaign idea. The next is have good creative content throughout. And the last part is customize, go personal, be contextual. Okay, and I'll go through each of these points. The first one obviously being start with a strong campaign. If we look at some of the global work that we've done, if you have a central, foundational, singular type central idea, it can work, okay? If we look at what's happened globally, if you've got that central idea, you can increase brand awareness by 33%. If you've got that central idea, you can increase brand associations by 91%. And if you have that central idea, you can increase that purchase intent. And fundamentally, that has just a massive brand impact for you. So that's your foundation. You must have that to have a great multimedia campaign. Now, if we go to our second bucket, have good creative content throughout, there's 6 key things that we can talk about, and I'm not going to go into them in all detail. I can talk to you about this for an hour if you want to, but I'm not going to do that because I've got 7.3 minutes left. What I will talk to you about is make people feel something, and I think a lot of people talk about an emotional connection that we need, and I'm not talking about telling them, just telling them something functional. I'm telling them to make them feel something, whether it be sad, happy, reminiscent, whatever it may be. You have to make people feel something. You've got to stand out from the start. And as a New Zealander, I'd say you need to grab them by the balls early on. Make them sit up and pay attention. Because if you don't, they're just going to walk away. You need to have consistent brand cues and presence. And I'm not saying have your logo at the bottom left-hand corner throughout the whole advertisement. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you need certain cues. Be that a Claire and Ronaldo. Be that Red and Coke. Be that dove and that silly white bird. I shouldn't say silly white bird, but that white bird. But you need to have a connect to your brand. And there are some semiotics that you can have that ensures that you have that connection for your brand. Get the length just right. And I'm not saying that you need to keep it short. I'm saying that you need to have an objective for your advertising. If it's a little bit longer, and we recently did a Ramadan Best Most Loved Awards, and a lot of the ads were a lot longer than 30 seconds. They were a minute, some of them were 2 minutes. And they were loved because they told a story. And if storytelling is really important, storytelling can be really important. If it's communicating something that's going to feel an emotional connect, then do it. If you want to do something shorter and you want a single message, that's important as well. You've also got to consider the context of what you're doing, where these people are at, what their mindset is, who they are. People talked about in the evening where they've got a little bit more time. Perhaps it's during lunchtime, they're time poor. You've got to think of their location, their mindset, what's happening with them to get that contextualization. The last point is avoid overloading. And I think a lot of the creative briefs that I've seen over the years, it drives me a bit crazy when I see I want to get over 10 messages, or I want to get more than a few messages when I want to talk to my consumers. Keep it singular. Keep it simple. If you try and communicate too much, people will just forget your execution or your ad. And sometimes just being positive, having some level of positivity about your brand, can be just enough. Now, I just wanted to give you one little case study in terms of from our Ramadan Most Loved 2018 awards. Grab was one of the ones that did quite well. I'm just showing you this because they had a longer 60-second execution, which worked very, very well. And it was very emotional in sentiment. It was based around the Ramadan time of year. It talked about an emotional connect around peace and harmony, and that connected very, very well with consumers. They also overlaid that with the shorter 6 or 7 second clips, and these were very singular messages about key moments during Ramadan. It was very single-minded, and it also reminded people about what Grab can do for you. And that was a very powerful campaign. I'm just going to go into the last one, so customization, going personal and contextual. What do I mean by that? Now, multimedia campaigns work. That's just a fact. They work. They work better than just running a TV ad, for example. They work, and then you do see an uplift. But the rule of thumb with any multimedia campaign is you need to be integrated. what we did with our research from an ad reaction study that we did globally was that if you're not well integrated, if it's very diverse and different, you only see a minor uplift versus a singular campaign. The second point is if you've got an integrated campaign, but it's not particularly customized. For example, if you're cutting and pasting an ad from TV onto YouTube, for example, you're not doing any customization at all. You do see an uplift, but it's not that big. Now, the significant movement is when you've got an integrated campaign and you customize for the platform. So you may have a TV ad, which is very good, and you customize it. And I'm not saying just cutting that ad into smaller bits, but customizing it for the right channel. So if it's for Facebook, you're doing a certain thing. If it's for YouTube, you're doing a certain thing. If it's for Line, you're doing a certain thing. So when you customize it and make it relevant and have that for the individual channels, you get a massive 26% uplift in being a compelling campaign. Now, I want to sort of go back, and I think I was saying to you, we are the knowledge partner. So we did dig a little bit deeper into this year's awards versus last year's awards. And one of the things that I was talking to my team about was, what's the demographic targeting like? You know, how does it compare to 2017 versus this 2018? Is there a difference? And what they came back to me was with this, and I says, hold on, that can't be right. You're telling me targeting is less. You're saying demographic targeting is less. And they says, you asked for demographic targeting. I says, yeah. He says, but they're doing a different type of targeting. So I shouldn't have been surprised about that. What is actually happening is this. That customization, bloody hell, it's really loud up here. That customization on mobile, it's gone beyond conventional. It's just not about age and gender, location. We've taken it to another level. We're much more sophisticated in our targeting now. Okay, so what actually happened now, the winning campaigns were 21% more likely to use a sophisticated targeting methodology, whether that be demographics and gamification, whether that be interests in climate, and that example before, we had climate and ice cream. I mean, these types of things, that was smart, it was sophisticated. That's what, if you're going to win next year, if you want to be the Smarties award winner in 2019, it's about sophistication. It's about targeting in a different mindset, not just age and gender. So in summary, and I will hit my time, in summary, if you want to have a great multimedia campaign, there's 3 key things that you need to look at. You need to start with a fantastic campaign idea. That is at the foundation of all multimedia campaigns. You need to have a great creative content throughout. And finally, you must customize and go personal and contextual. You must be sophisticated in the way you approach your consumers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gin. That was amazing. Thank you very much. We'd like to invite you, to join me on the center stage. And this is very special because it's the last one that we're given this. And you should have a medal for doing that again.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Gin. And can we have another round of applause for our last speaker, Kelvin Gin. Thank you very much.